All right. We're here. We're live. There's people watching us.
Excellent.
Yay!
Yay!
I think everybody was saying synchronized swatches for 6 p.m. Friday, March 28th. So that was the fun line that we had going on the channel. So hi everybody. My name's Natalie from my so-called Gen X life. I am joined tonight by the amazing Corin Nemec, who we all know from Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Yay! I wish I had some sound effects for some applause.
Yeah, it's my
There you
dog
go.
barking. He'll give us some sound effects.
So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I super appreciate it. We're gonna ask you some questions from my subscribers. We're gonna watch some old clips and just kind of talk about what you got going on and things like
Excellent.
that.
Excellent.
Awesome. So let's just go back to the beginning because that's a very good place to start.
All
I
right.
heard I heard that you got into acting, I guess, because of your dad and a movie that he worked on that was like one of the most iconic Gen X movies ever. So I'd love to hear the story about that, about how you got into acting and why.
Yeah, well, it was I was inspired to become an actor by the film Goonies, which my father was assistant art director on, and he was a big part of the design of the interior of the cavern and the ship, and that whole entire thing was a lot of his work. And I was living in Atlanta at the time when the movie came out with my mom and my sister. She was a graphic designer for the Nederlander company, which owned the Fox Theater there and the Pantages Theater out in Los Angeles,
Oh, nice.
and a bunch of other theaters all across the U.S.
Yeah.
And she had put in for a transfer from the graphic design department in Atlanta to the one in Hollywood, and she got that transfer because she was very talented.
Yeah.
And we ended up moving to Los Angeles. Pretty much around almost the same year that the movie came out, and I was really inspired by that film because I had been on sets that my father was working on, and I had been backstage at productions that my mom was working on and stuff, and I was really interested in the arts and entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
I think previous to wanting to become an actor, I kind of saw myself in the design world like my mom and my father were in. But once that movie came out, I knew what it was like to be on set. I knew what wardrobe was. I knew what sets looked like and all of that. And I just knew how much fun they must have had during the production. So I really was determined to have that experience as a young kid. And I moved to Los Angeles, and I was in oddly enough, a graphic design class in 8th grade at Walter Reed Junior High in Studio City, North Hollywood area. And one of my classmates was a young actor named David Van Gorder, who was very well known at the time for being in the Van Halen music video "Hot for Teacher," where he played Waldo,
Nice.
the young nerdy student who had the hots for his teacher. And I had expressed to him my desire to get into acting, and he suggested that I come and audit an acting class that he was in called Center Stage LA. The artistic director was Kevin McDermott. And fortunately for me, Center Stage LA was one of the hottest young acting workshops for kids in the industry, for young adults. The age range was between 12 and 17. There was nobody over 17 in the class. And it was a really, really wonderful class. A lot of improvisation we did in that class. I was actually for a short time, I was in a youth improv group called Off the Wall with other classmates.
Ooh, improv.
And we performed around town. Yeah, it was great though.
Yeah.
What it did for a young actor was get us, it lessened our concern for what was on the page and got us into that world of play and loosened us up. And because for a young actor who's just getting into, for any actor really just getting into it, there can be a certain amount of stress and pressure for memorization and creating a character and doing all the things you're supposed to do as it's written. but to let go of all of that and just be in the world of make believe and performing and creating characters and having fun while you're at it was the biggest part of it. So he did a lot of improvisational exercises, and then would apply that to our scripted material that we were doing. So even
Gotcha.
when we would memorize a scene, he would ask us, okay, now that you've rehearsed the scene, we know you know your dialogue and everything, forget the dialogue, forget everything, just be the characters. And if you say one of your lines of dialogue while you're doing this performance, that's fine or whatever, but just go from the beginning to the middle to the end,
Right.
figure out your way there, but just relax, don't worry about what you're supposed to say and all of that. And it was a wonderful way to just get us, into that world of make believe.
Right.
And within about 6 months of being in the class, I did my first showcase for agents and managers, and
Wow.
I signed with an agency right away called Abrams, Rubaloff and Lawrence. And
Wow.
my first audition was for a Suzuki motorcycle commercial that aired during the 1986 Super Bowl, and by Paul Ventura Casting. And I got the job, and it was,
Wow,
it
that's
was really rad. So and from there, I just kept working. I just kept scoring, one job after another. Obviously, I didn't get as many jobs as I auditioned for. No actor does.
Well, who does?
But,
Yeah.
but it was within that first, I guess maybe even 6 months of acting, that I landed the role of Noble Tucker in the film Tucker, A Man in His Dream, playing Jeff Bridges' middle son there.
Yeah. That's a Coppola
based on
movie,
the
wasn't
true
it?
story. Yeah, Francis
Yeah.
Ford Coppola directing.
Yeah.
And what a cast! It was an incredible experience to work on such a high-end film that was so artistically motivated,
Right.
and
What
that
an
was just,
experience.
that was a great experience. And once I did that film, I started auditioning for bigger and better roles, and was
Right.
kind of in a smaller pond, so to speak,
Right.
than I was previous to that performance.
Gotcha.
So that
Man,
was
you
great.
had a quick start and got right into it, and then just kept going. There was no
totally.
struggle.
Totally. I mean, right after that, before the movie even came out, I got offered the role of Nikki Papadopoulos on the final season of Webster, playing
Yes.
Webster's live-in cousin.
I remember that.
Yeah, me and him shared a bedroom, and we didn't share a bed.
No.
We shared a bedroom. And it was hilarious. I had a good time working with him. Mam and George were a bit difficult, I must say.
Really,
But,
Mam and George were difficult. Well, they were married in real life, right?
They were divorced at that time.
Oh, they were divorced by then. I didn't realize
so you
that.
can imagine what it was like on set. It was not a pleasant divorce.
Oh no.
But
no.
So from there, things just kept I just kept working. After Webster, I did the Eddie Murphy TV special, What's Alan Watching? I played the title character in that with Fran Drescher and Peter Michael Getz and Barbara Barry, and a great, there was a huge cast in that. Obviously Eddie Murphy was in it as well. And that was that was a great role, great performance. I really had to fight for that role. I think I went back for like 6 callbacks and auditioned against every other actor in LA that had more credits than me, and I fortunately landed it. It's a great, it's great. And then I Know My First Name is Steven shortly after that.
Yeah.
So I was bouncing between comedy and drama, which was very important to me to be able to be flexible in that way and not to get typecast.
Sure.
But, so I Know My First Name is Steven garnered me an Emmy nomination at 16 years old.
Yes, that was good.
It was big. Yeah.
Did you go to the Emmys? Did you go to
I did. I was at the Emmys that year. I went to the Emmys the following year as well, but just as a voyeur.
Yeah.
But,
that's cool. That was like the height of the awards shows back in the late 80s and early 90s.
Watch them.
Big deal. People watched them. Yeah, people cared.
It was very cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of I Know My First Name is Steven, for my audience, for Gen Xers, that is a movie that has stuck with us for 35 years. I mean, people still talk about that to this day. Do you get people asking you about that or talking about that movie at all still, or is it kind of one that's you don't really want to talk
just
about?
like you said, it was very impactful at the time. I mean, I don't know what other miniseries has ever gotten as big of a rating that had. It had a 48% share on the Nielsen ratings back then, which meant that 48% of the viewing audience in America that had Nielsen boxes were all watching that miniseries. And that's unheard of, to have almost 50% of the entire country watching one program at once. It's like watching the Super Bowl,
Yep, exactly.
So it was a massive success. It really was really big for me. Did a lot for my career, and really launched me as a dramatic actor as well. So that was a big deal for me. It was a tragic story, as anybody who's familiar with it knows.
Yes, it was terrible.
And unfortunately a true story.
Yes, exactly. Well, I actually have a news report from that time with when they were making it's actually from Entertainment Tonight when you were making it, and we were going to watch that for a minute if you don't mind.
Sure.
Would you like to see that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is, let's see here. Hold on. Let me get it up. All righty. Here we go.
Maybe some kid out there that's missing will see it and come forward and make an attempt to go home.
The real-life ordeal of a kidnapped child held captive for 7 years comes out of the shadows and into prime time. The inside story on Entertainment Tonight for Thursday, April 20th, 1989.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Mary Hunt.
And I'm John Pesh. At age 7, held captive for 7 years, and when he returned home, even adjusting to life with his parents became an ordeal. Now the bizarre story of Steven Stayner is coming to television. That's our inside story for today. In 1972, 7-year-old Steven Stayner was kidnapped while on his way home from school in Merced, California. For the next several years, he was forced to live as the son of his abductor, a previously convicted sex offender named Kenneth Parnell, and he did so until he managed to escape 7 years later. His emotional return home to an overjoyed family in 1980 made national news, and his subsequent testimony in court helped put Parnell behind bars in the state penitentiary. Now, 17 years after his long ordeal began, the extraordinary story of Steven's life during and after this traumatic experience is the subject of an upcoming miniseries. The two-part drama is called I Know My First Name is Steven. It stars Corin Nemec as the teenage Steven, and Beverly Hills cops John Ashton and St. Elsewhere Cindy Pickett as his parents. For them, this was a story that just had to be told.
It brings a tear to almost everyone. It's just the fact that a human being can be a child, can be cruelly dehumanized like this. And it's moving to everybody.
I'm really, really pleased to be associated with it. And I think it's a fascinating story. And if it wasn't true, I don't think anyone would believe it.
Hop in, son. The preacher here, he'll drive you home.
The story, in fact, is remarkable. Abducted and convinced by his captor that his parents no longer wanted nor could afford him, Steven lived a life of constant fear and was routinely sexually abused. He was forced to call his kidnapper Dad, and outwardly seemed to have a normal life.
Happy Valentine's Day. This is your new little brother.
But at 14, when Parnell brought home another 5-year-old kidnapped victim, Steven took the child, and together they escaped from their rural captivity and went to the police.
You say he looks just like you did at age 14? Basically, yeah.
Now 23, Steve is married with 2 kids and looks forward to a career in law enforcement. During the filming of the miniseries, he even had an opportunity to portray a police officer.
That's so sad because like a few months later, he died.
The
Did-
night before the Emmys was the night of his motorcycle
Oh,
wreck. He was hit by
really?
a drunk driver. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
tragic.
gosh. So
Tragic.
did you get to see, so you got to talk to him before, like while you were making the movie, and you got, like, how did you prepare for a role like that, especially at
Well,
such a
I didn't meet up with him previous to starting filming. I got to meet him on set and whatnot. The script was extremely well written.
yeah.
But I did work with an acting teacher named John Len, who was fantastic. He was absolutely an incredible teacher, and we went deep into the script and rehearsed every single scene and just did all the backstory that was necessary, and really got me so well prepared for that
Yeah.
once I was on set, there was such a limited amount of pressure and stress on me, because there was so much to be done in that production.
Right.
But John Len was just a fantastic teacher and an incredible actor himself. It's too bad that he didn't have a much bigger career as an actor. He was in a lot of old movies in the 60s and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But
Wow.
it was just that's what got me ready for it, was working
Right.
with him.
Did you meet Steven's brother?
No, I did not. I don't think he was around on
Okay.
set at all. But that is just a bizarre turn of events.
Bizarre
Very
story.
creepy.
Yeah,
Very
like
creepy.
just randomly crazy, just absolutely crazy. But that's a sad story. Let's do something more fun.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the timeline. After Stephen, after I did I know my first name is Stephen, I ended up doing a really, really cool sci-fi movie called Solar Crisis that flopped in the movie theaters, unfortunately.
Oh no.
But it had a great cast: Charlton Heston and Jack Palance and Peter Boyle and Tim Matheson and
Wow.
just I can't even remember who else was in it. It was a great cast, and it was a really, really big budget for the late 80s. It was a 52 million dollar budget back
Wow,
then,
that was a big one.
which
back
was
then.
it was giant. And I had a really great time. I was expecting big things from that, and it flopped. But it's still a good movie. You guys can still go out there and see it. You can find it somewhere.
There you
Solar
go.
Crisis.
Solar Crisis. All right.
It's a
Maybe
great
we'll do
sci-fi.
a watch. We'll do a live stream watch in the future. We'll all get together and
Right on.
watch that one
Right on.
and talk about you.
But it wasn't long after that I got the offer for Parker Lewis, which
awesome.
which was a game changer for me in the early 90s there.
Yeah.
But at first, to be honest, I thought it was going to be a sitcom, and I had such a tough time working on Webster that I had vowed internally that I would never do another sitcom as long as I live. And when I got the offer for it, because I didn't audition for it, they really liked me because of my performance on What's Alan Watching, because the creator Clyde Phillips had a deal over at CBS at the time, and he was writing Parker Lewis around the same time that I did What's Alan Watching, and it didn't get picked up by CBS, so the rights reverted back to him. Gotcha. And he later sold it to Fox. But his intention was to have, if it got picked up by CBS, was to have me play Parker Lewis back then. So when it got picked up by Fox, they came to me and offered me the role, which was huge. That was a really big deal. But I thought it was a sitcom, and I was like, nah.
Right.
And they're like, wait a second, here, we want to sit down with you. Let's explain to you. So I sat down with him and Lon Diamond and Robert. Gosh, why is this? Robert Lewis, who were the three main writers and creators of the show and producers and whatnot. So they explained to me that it wasn't a sitcom; it was a single camera comedy, and it was going to be shot in the same vein as a movie called 3 O'Clock High that starred Casey Shimoska that came out in the late 80s. And it was 3 O'Clock High. I loved that movie. The camera was a character in it. There was so much done to tell the story with the camera that, and when they explained that was the cinematic style that they were going to go for with Parker Lewis, I was like, where do I sign?
Yeah, you were sold.
Absolutely, I totally get it now.
I didn't do a lot of single camera stuff back then, as far as Like,
not half hour.
yeah, not half hour.
No,
Yeah.
I think we were. I mean, yeah, no, there wasn't any that I can think of right offhand.
Me neither. Yeah. And I mean, that was Parker Lewis was such a big show for people my age, you know, I think I was 13 or 14 when that show came out. And oh my God, we watched it every week. We were so sad. But what I love about Parker Lewis is that the show came at a time that's a very unique time in like our history, as far as it was right before the internet, it was right before computers, it was right before cell phones, and you're in high school, but there was still a lot of tech involved, the tech of the time. But it was just, you know, it captures this moment that just, you know, is so unique in my opinion, as far as high school goes. And boy, your clothes, your shirts were did you keep any of those? Do you have any Parker Lewis?
I wish I did
souvenirs?
now, you know, for nostalgic sake, but but no, I didn't. I did have a great time picking them out though. It was like I can't remember, like maybe every 4 to 6 weeks or so, they would bring in a new lineup of like 60 shirts or something, and I'd go through and pick the ones that I liked best, and those would go into the lineup. I'm not sure if I ever wore the same shirt twice, to be honest.
I don't remember seeing like we always had a new outfit. You were always styling.
Yeah. I modeled the character kind of after the, you know, the hip hop scene back then. You know, I was dressing with the really wild pattern shirts buttoned all the way to the top. I had sort of a white boy version of a high top fade, and you know, like it was more of a pompadour. But
right, were you rapping around that time? Or was that later?
I was, but I didn't. I did do an album that never came out with a group that I was working with called Starship of Fools. I recently found our old music and put it out on SoundCloud and BandLab.
Really?
So if you have SoundCloud or BandLab, you can search Starship of Fools with a Z at the end. Fools, FOOLZ. And I think both of my stations there are I am Corin Nemec, just like on Instagram or Facebook or X or wherever.
Right.
The letter I, the letter M, and then my name. But yeah, you can go and listen to it. It's pretty cool. It was that we definitely the group I was working with. It wasn't me like a solo act. I had other rappers that I was working with. One of them was actually Shane Mooney, the son of the great comedian Paul Mooney.
Okay.
And yeah, he was one of the rappers in the group. There were 3 of us, and then Balthazar Getty was our DJ at the time. And also produced quite a bit of our music. He was incredible for being so young. I mean,
right.
It actually holds up, strangely enough.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Definitely. Now, you were on Parker Lewis in the early 90s, right when your good friend David Faustino was on Married with Children. Did you guys meet back then, or how did you guys meet?
I met him before I started on Parker Lewis, actually, because there was this you know, the Hollywood scene back then was very small in comparison. And there was a lot of like events that we would all do, you know, the Special Olympics event was something I did like every single year. And then there was other charity events, that the AIDS walk every year. I was doing that, and he was always at those. And we also hung out with some of the same crowd. So we ended up together. There was this youth discotheque type thing called Alfie's Soda Pop Club that was going on back then, that all the young actors hung out at. And we got to, there's a dark story behind that place.
Unfortunately.
But so, you know, we had already known each other, and then when we ended up on the same network together, that was a lot of fun. We got to see each other quite a bit, and obviously he was doing that club Ballistics around that same time period too, the hip hop club. I didn't go to Ballistics very often, but I did just do an interview for the documentary that he's putting out about Ballistics.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, we you know, it was a great time to be on Fox. There was some wonderful events that we got to do. I did a lot of traveling and promotion for the show. But the one thing that I didn't want to lose was, you know, my notoriety as a dramatic actor too. So every hiatus, instead of just like partying my days off, I would go do a dramatic movie of the week every hiatus. So the first hiatus I
That's
did one
smart.
called For the Very First Time, which was starring opposite Cheryl Pollack, who also played my love interest in What's Alan Watching years before. She was my love interest in that as well. And Machen and Mick was in that, and there was some other great actors. But so I did that one for the first hiatus, and then the second hiatus I did another very dramatic movie of the week called My Son Johnny, that was based on a true story. Me and myself and Rick Schroeder starred in that,
Nice.
along with Michelle Lee, who played our mother in it. It was based on a true story about a brother who was very, very abusive to his younger brother, and his younger brother ended up killing him in in self-defense, but
right.
in
You
that
dramatic.
sense,
Whoa.
and it was there was a he ended up getting off on self-defense charges, but it was looking like he could potentially go to jail for life after having suffered abuse at the hands of his brother for his whole life.
Oh my gosh.
It was very heavy story.
Very heavy.
Yeah,
That is,
and then the third hiatus, which unfortunately turned out to be the long hiatus, I lined up a wonderful movie of the week, a sci-fi movie called Life Force Experiment with Donald Sutherland.
Ooh.
And it was great to work with him, and a really heavy project as well for me as an actor. It was a pretty intense role, but so I just kept that going. And then after I did the Life Force Experiment, I ended up on the miniseries The Stand. Playing Harold Lauder, and that miniseries, man, what a blast! I mean, 5.5 months in Utah, in Salt Lake City, was interesting.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask, because I used to live in Orem, like right where you shot all of that, and it's a great area.
Yeah, it was. Salt Lake City is back. I mean, I guess back in the early '90s. I don't know what it's like now, but it was a strange place, man.
Well, yeah,
I'll have to say
it's very heavily Mormon.
yeah, which is fine.
Which is totally great, but it's just a different culture. It's just a different
vibe.
A different world, but it was an interesting place to be. So you had an incredible cast in The Stand, and
totally.
You had some Gen X legends with Molly Ringwald and Rob Lowe, and you got to, and then you got to work with Gary Sinise and all that. I mean, what incredible experience. So how did you get cast in The Stand? Did they seek you out, or did you audition?
No, I auditioned for that, and I was oddly enough, I also was like just getting over the flu, which I rarely ever got sick, in my life. I still to this day rarely ever get sick, but I got hit hard by it, and I had this big audition for this miniseries, and I Stephen King and Mick Garris directing it. And I remembered that I had auditioned for Mick Garris for the movie Sleepwalker. And I was like, I thought I just nailed Sleepwalker. I was like, this role is mine. And I didn't get it. And I was like, what did I do wrong?
Oh,
no. And it turns out that it was my audition in Sleepwalker that made Mick really believe that I could do this performance in The Stand, because the only reason I didn't get the job in Sleepwalker is because I was too thin.
Oh.
and very strange was the breakdown for The Stand. When I read the character breakdown, this somewhat overweight, heavy set, pimple faced guy, I was like, oh, here we go. I'm going to go audition for Mick Garris and another Stephen King project and not get the role again because I'm too thin, But I really understood who this character was, and Stephen King himself was like fighting Mick Garrison about bringing me in to audition me. He was like,
really?
No, this guy's totally wrong. But fortunately for me, they had auditioned a bunch of actors who fit the character description, the physical description.
Right.
And they had auditioned. From what Mick told me, they auditioned actors in LA, in Miami, in New York, in Chicago, even in San Francisco, whatever. Apparently they went, maybe they just wanted to travel around and have a good time, on the dime of the network. But they didn't find anybody that Steven or Mick felt like, got the character, understood the character. And the character also goes through a bit of a transition, even in the book, where he kind of slims down a bit or whatever.
Right.
But I went in and I auditioned for it, and unbeknownst to me, as soon as I walked out of the audition, Mick and Steven had a very quick discussion, and Mick was like, "See, I told you he could do it." And he was like, "You're right. Okay, you're right. He totally gets the character."
Yes.
And so I got cast, very quickly for that, and I was beyond stoked because it was my first time playing not just kind of a villain, but more of a character actor role. It was like something so outside the box for the other performances I played, like the lead actor who's the victim, who's all distressed and all this, or the lead actor who's like, hey, the cool guy in school or whatever. It was my chance to play the quirky, odd, darker character, and it was a career changer for me. I got to play a lot more offbeat roles later on after that. Even in movies of the week, like one called Blackout, that was I got to play a really interesting character in that, and Summer of Fear, I played like the distraught, weird son who was kind of disowned by his father and wanted revenge and all this, and then later on playing roles like what was it, the Bundy, American Icon, playing Ted Bundy.
You played Bundy.
Yeah, playing Ted Bundy, and then in Richard Speck, Chicago Massacre, playing Richard Speck. And
getting a little dark here, Corin. Geez.
Yeah, well, I don't think I would have gotten any of those roles had I not played Harold Lauder in The Stand. And
really?
I don't think so. I think that I think some of my other dramatic roles would certainly help, but I think that The Stand sort of put me into a different category, that I appreciate very much. And then after The Stand, it wasn't, I ended up doing Drop Zone, Wesley Snipes, within a couple of months of finishing up The Stand. And then not long after Drop Zone, I was in Operation Dumbo Drop with Ray Liotta, God bless him, and Danny Glover and Dennis Leary. And oddly enough, Danny Glover was one of I was in competition with him for the Emmy nomination back in the day. He was one of the people, him and Armand Assante and
who won? Who won that Emmy? Do you remember?
I'd have to look it up. I don't recall.
I don't remember.
But it was pretty cool to be, I think at the time I was the youngest actor ever to be nominated for an Emmy. At that time, so that was pretty cool.
What a great experience.
But
was The Stand your first experience with like love scenes? Because I know you had one with Laura San Giacomo. Was that your first?
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily a love scene.
Oh, well, I mean, you know what I mean. You got a little saucy.
Me and Cher, when I in for the very first time, I had a pretty sweaty scene with Cheryl Pollack.
Oh, okay.
Who a lot of people were jealous of at the time, but it was a movie of the week for CBS or whatever, so you couldn't push it too hard,
right?
But I did have to wear that body stocking, which was pretty hilarious.
Good times. There were no intimacy coordinators on set back then or anything to protect you.
No, thank God. Who needs that?
Right, what a stupid thing. Hollywood is.
I don't know. Maybe it's okay for some movies. Like 9.5 Weeks probably needed one.
Maybe, yeah. But I love that. Was it "Don't mess with my disco, Nadine"? I love that scene.
Don't screw with my disco.
Don't screw with my disco.
That was the actual line of dialogue. I was doing these. Let me see if I can turn this light down a little bit here. I was doing these autograph signings and stuff like that, and when people would ask for autographs for Harold Lauder, I was about to write "Don't screw with my disco," but it was like the guy was there with his young kid and all of that, and so I was like, "Don't mess with my disco." And I started writing that all the time, and I forgot what the real line of dialogue was. Oh. And then I was like at a convention like years later, and I wrote "Don't mess with the disco," and the guy looked at it and he goes, I thought the line was "Don't screw with my disco," and I was like, you know what? You're right. Give me that back. Here's the real line.
I actually have the scene pulled up. I gotta watch it because it's my favorite. I love it so much. Here we go. Don't screw with my disco, Nadine. I love this. Hold on. Oh, wrong one. That's when you flew and died. Hold on. We're getting to the don't through with my disco.
The tragic turn of events.
Yes, tragic. That was quite the stunt. Did you do that stunt?
Hell no.
Harold. What the hell are you doing? Don't screw with my disco, Nadine.
There it is.
Is everything all right?
I love the pulling the glasses off. It was just so great. Don't screw with my disco, Nadine. For anybody that wants to watch this version of The Stand, it's available for free on YouTube. All 6 hours of it. So
wow.
Yeah.
I guess I won't get any residuals for that.
I guess not. Probably not. Sorry. Did you watch the new one? The new Stand? The reboot? You didn't watch it?
No.
People were asking if you had, so I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I've been asked that a bunch of times. I just couldn't figure out why they would redo the miniseries. Why not go back and re-edit the original and put in all of the scenes that didn't make it, you know, and do the full. I mean, it turned out to be a 6-hour miniseries. They had eight or more hours of material. They could have just put in all of the cutout scenes, all of the stuff, you know, and they could have just re-released it, you know.
Right. That'd make more sense. Hollywood has gotten so obsessed with remaking and rebooting everything made in the 80s and 90s.
Hey, I'd like to, if I'm going to reboot something, I'd like to reboot Mr. Ed and play Wilbur.
There you go. I like it. That's a good one.
Thanks.
So this is kind of a topic that I wanted to ask you about. What is your viewpoint on how the industry has changed? And like, I mean, you know, you've been in TV and movies, and it's like basically the industry is like unrecognizable compared to what it was back in the 90s. Am I right? Like, how is it from your perspective, this big weird change?
I mean, if you're represented by one of the larger agencies, it's probably a gravy train because they have all of the packaging and all the for all the series and everything else, and they're very tight knit now. It's the way that the auditioning process works is pretty dreadful for actors today because everything is done digitally and submitted digitally, and
oh Lord,
so there's no personal interaction with anybody in the room. You don't get to have that moment that. So and not only that, because I know several casting directors pretty well, and you know, they just say that the amount of submissions that they get, because anybody can submit basically, like every agency out there, everybody can submit. And then, you know, so they have 3,000 or more submissions for a role, and what are they going to do? It's like they got submissions from Timbuktu, you know what I mean? They're like, what are we going to fly you in for this Lifetime movie? You live in Timbuktu,
right?
But it's unless you're, you know, currently unless you're with one of the big eight, which I'm not right now. I'm with a boutique agency, but if you're not with one of the big agencies, it's pretty tough because you would assume that there's more work than ever with all of these different platforms and all of the original series and everything else that's going on. But oddly enough, it's been even though I work consistently in comparison to most actors, my credit list on IMDb is still stays relevant, and you know, but I also switched over and started producing and writing and developing my own projects, which you wanted to talk about as well, which started me and David Faustino had started a production company together years ago, and we did a number of films with each other, like Killer Bud and RoboDoc with National Lampoon, and one other one, I can't remember what it was, and then we ended up selling a short-lived web series to Sony Television called Starving, which we kind of came up with the idea after seeing the two Corys series and all of that. And
Right.
it had nothing to do with the two Coreys. But we were like, dude, we should totally do a reality show, but like totally ham it up. Like, don't take it seriously. All this. So one of the shows we pitched was You're Not My Best Friend Anymore. And it was David Faustino and me. We lived together in a mansion, and he's upset with me and doesn't want to be my best friend anymore. So he's going to cast a new best friend in his life, and so he brings in all these dudes, to try and pick out a new best friend, and they all live at the mansion with him and me and all this stuff. And we had ridiculous scenarios that we were going to put them through, and if you were bad, you'd have to go live in this oversized doghouse in the backyard for the night and all this crazy stuff. And granted, nobody picked that up. We did pitch it to a lot of networks, and they're like,
it sounded good. It sounds good.
How about one of our ideas instead? We're like, we saw the two Coreys. We're not going that route. But so finally we came up, our buddy, our writing partner, Todd Bringawat, he was like, look, they're gonna ruin you guys' life with a reality show if they do one anyway. So why don't we ruin your lives for you?
Oh, there you go.
And we'll do the show Starving and as a mock reality show, and we'll just make the most fun of you guys that anybody could ever make, and don't. I think it was I forget which trade magazine it was. It was like the Variety or something. They said that we didn't just push the envelope, we shredded it.
I like that. Why did it only last one season? We wanted more episodes.
Well, there was a couple of reasons. One, we pretty much offended almost everybody at Sony Television with our content, and
it happens.
Yeah, and two, they accidentally gave us 40% ad rev on the show. And when they realized how much they were going to owe us with how many views the show was getting, they decided, you know what? We don't want to pay these guys that much. So let's just cancel the show.
And there you go. You could just put it on YouTube at this point and just go directly there and skip the middleman.
Yeah, well, you can't. It was all up on YouTube, but they pulled it. But right. I do have a secret Vimeo account with a few of the episodes up. If anybody wants to try and find it, you're welcome to. I only have like 7 out of 12 episodes posted right now.
Gotcha.
But,
I'm playing episode 3 right now, Straight Outta Compton, which is one of my favorites.
Straight Out of Compton. Yes, I go back to I take David to go see my old gang counselor from high school because he needs some therapy and he can't afford it.
It's so
hilarious.
Good.
It's hilarious.
It's so funny. I love it so much. Oh my!
He ends up getting mugged by my illegitimate children. They steal everything, including his clothes.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Well, yeah. Well, if you guys ever want to make another episode of that, we would love to see it because it is so funny.
Yeah, it was. It was honestly, I even laughed my ass off when I watched the episodes. I was like, I can't believe we're doing this to ourselves. We're never going to work again after this, Dave.
Right.
You realize that, right? So it might have been beneficial that they, especially because of everything that happened with people's senses of humor being lost from like 2010, 2012 on. And people are finally starting to come back around and be like,
I hope so.
Maybe Blazing Saddles was funny. But
absolutely it was.
I think that if that show had stayed on Crackle all throughout these years and we had done more episodes, because some of the episodes that we didn't shoot were, I can't even describe them on air right now.
I can't even imagine. I bet they got.
We had some outrageous ones that they're like, I think that some of the ones you are doing, this one is not going to be one of them.
That's not going to do it. Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, we had a great time making it though. We had complete creative control. Sam Cass, who was a writer producer from Seinfeld and a bunch of other great shows. He was on our team of creatives, and the show was so controversial, even in the writing process, that we would come up with these scenarios that we would be laughing our asses off at. But then me and David would look at each other and realize yeah, but I have to do that. And, I'd be like, yeah, well, we'll leave that one out. And so it
Right.
became difficult to write. So we had to come up with a rule of thumb that since there was 4 of us in the that were all writers on it, and we were all creating these episodes, that if it got 3 laughs, it stayed in.
It stayed in. That's a good rule.
And generally speaking, it always got 3 or more laughs when we were in the writing room. Everything did. We had so much fun writing this thing. It was just a blast. And had the one episode where we end up getting a pitch deal with the network Al Juhaida over in Afghanistan, and we fly over to Afghanistan to go pitch a series, and we end up getting roped in to do a series with Osama bin Laden.
Oh no!
And then David spits on him, thinking that it was a cultural greeting over there, and so he swears a jihad against David, and we end up flying back home from Afghanistan without a deal.
No,
it was just outrageous stuff. Outrageous.
Oh my God, what a story. I love that. I love that you have been working pretty consistently since you started. And I love that you kind of avoided the whole 80s, 90s star downfall. You were able to kind of, keep working and stay out of trouble.
I think a part of that was, I was always into acting classes, and that kept me grounded a lot. After I was with Center Stage LA, and then I worked with John Lenn for a while, and then I was with Terrence Hines at his acting class, along with Brian Green and Stephen Dorff were over there with me at Terrence Hines. Okay. And then I studied with God, why is his name slipping my mind right now? He's a fantastic teacher, Larry Moss, at his studio during the time I was working on Parker Lewis. So even while I was on Parker Lewis, I was still going to acting class, on the side. Yeah. And but I ended up having to drop out because the schedule became so intense that I just didn't have time to prepare any roles or anything. So I basically I'd rush to class after I finished filming, and I'd get there and I didn't have anything prepared because I was too busy working. And so I would just sit there and just watch other people act. And I was like, so I stopped taking acting classes after the first season of Parker Lewis. And after the 3rd season, I felt like something was missing in my life. There was plenty of success and the money and all that stuff was going great. And I was like, but man, I don't feel right. I feel like I feel hollow, and my very good friend, Ernie Reyes Jr., who I had also done an episode of Sidekicks with back in the day with Gil Gerard. And he was in the Ninja Turtles movies and Surf Ninjas and all that stuff. Nice. And we actually went to real high school together too. But he was studying with this gentleman named Manu Tupou at the American Repertory Company in Hollywood. And I went and audited his class, and I was like, oh, this guy is the next level of brilliant. And I ended up studying there from the early 90s all the way till 2005, when he wasn't. He had diabetes, but it got out of control, and he ended up passing away, unfortunately, quite suddenly. And but I studied with him from 93, around 93, 94 until 2005, and I credit him with, he was like, listen, you can't have, I started having kind of an ego about auditioning after Parker Lewis and all this other success and everything. Right. And I was kind of like, just kind of not heavy, but I could feel that ego, was starting to try and push me in a different direction than the artistic side of me was used to going in. There was this sort of like an inflated sense of self was percolating during that time period. And fortunately, I met Manu, and he shut that down real quick. And he was basically just said, listen, you have to be willing to audition, and you can't think of it as a job. You have to think of it as an opportunity to practice your craft. And that's it. Right. If you get the job, great. If you don't, you got to practice your craft, and you got to go in a room. You got to do what it is that you say you love to do, and practice and rehearse. Right. So, you know, when he explained that, like within, I think it might have even been the first night I audited the class, he might have said something about that. And he also had, it was a very much a spiritual approach to acting. It wasn't, you know, he wasn't teaching a method of acting. He was teaching a way of life, you know, and he was the first person to introduce me to this idea that personality is malleable, and that the idea of who we are, it can, to a greater degree, be a totally false sense of self and a complete lie. Because he was very Buddhistic, and he was basically like, you know, there is nothing, there is no thing. So as an actor, you need to be no thing first, and then you can add the somethingness to nothing later on when you're developing these characters. So he would have us get this place called a 0 point, which we'd always start out doing these exercises in the beginning of these classes, creative exercises, a little bit of meditation and stuff, where we release all idea of self. Like, don't be who you think you are anymore. Be nobody. You know what I mean? And enjoy being nobody, because once you're nobody, then you have a blank slate, and you can add, then you can build a character based on that nobody, and add all of the elements of character that we get trapped in, where we suddenly become this idea of self and this character. And you know, I see it all the time. I won't name names, but there's certain actors out there who have become who they think they are, and they can't get out of it, you know?
I hear that. I hear that. It sounds like you had like the power of a good male influence and a good just is so important, and having a good mentor. Like that's
he was. He changed my life for sure. In fact, my son's middle name is Manu now. So
really?
So I got to and he was born, my son was born the same year that Manu passed away, and I felt that it was really you know, important. And my ex-wife at the time, who we have another daughter with, who's wonderful, she didn't have any qualms whatsoever about me giving Lucas the middle name Manu, because you know, she knew how important that Manu was to me in my life, you know. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was magical, really magical. And my son's great too. He's a spiritual force as well. He's really interested in Eastern philosophy, and you know, I kind of think like, is he the reincarnation of Manu, or what's going on here?
How old is he?
He's 20.
20. You can't be old enough to have a 20-year-old kid. We're not old enough for all that, are we?
My daughter's 31 now. So
what? That doesn't even seem possible. We are not old enough to have children that age.
Tell me about it.
That doesn't seem right. Oh my gosh. I wanted to bring this up for you because this made me laugh, and I wanted to see your reaction to it. This was somebody posted on YouTube, the most 90s scene of all time, and it's from Parker Lewis. And it had me laughing, so I wanted to see what you said.
Let's see.
Shout Factory TV.
It was just a funny thing with all of the ridiculous 90s references and prices.
There's actually a great a couple of guys that are doing a show all about Parker Lewis. It's a rewatch show.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, Synchronize. It's what's the name of their Instagram channel? I follow them on Instagram. I'm not on YouTube as much as I used to be.
Yeah.
But that's where their show is at. But it's Swatches Pod. It's Swatches Pod, WSATCHES Pod.
Swatches Pod.
Yeah, Swatches Pod. And so you can look them up on Instagram. They show a bunch of clips from Parker Lewis and all of that. I did an interview with them, and Troy Slayton, who played Jerry Steiner, did an interview with them recently, and they have their Swatches Pod on YouTube as well, if anybody is interested in checking it out. Yeah. And they just talk about all things Parker Lewis, and I got to tell, I love these guys. They're really great. Awesome. that they've kind of brought the show back in a way, you know, in a small way.
It's so much fun. Have you seen the Family Guy clip?
Oh yeah, man! What a blessing, dude! It's like It's like how they showed a clip of Parker Lewis on the new Dexter recently.
Oh, did they? I have not seen that yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to watch this. This made me. It's only 40 seconds long. This is comedy and heart. I love it. Good times. Oh my goodness. Well, we have gone through about all the questions that all my people asked me to ask you.
Wow, nothing on Stargate. That's incredible.
Oh, well, okay, hold on. I skipped the Stargate part. I'm so sorry. There is a whole thing right here that says Stargate. This is what happens when you write things on your notes and not organize yourself very well. All right, hold on. Stargate. Yes. That you popped in for one season pretty much, like you replaced the character and then you had to leave because the character came back or whatever, so that was an interesting experience. But wow, do you have a lot of fans for that show?
Yeah, it was I had a great opportunity to come in and create a memorable character for the show that it was tough though, because it wasn't so much the producers and the writers and all of that stuff, the directors. They were all really gung-ho about the new character coming on board and everything. Michael Shanks is a great guy. He had decided that 5 seasons was enough for him, that he wanted to move on and do some other things.
Right.
And the show was sold to Sci-Fi Channel at that point, and so they had brought me on for the first season on Sci-Fi Channel. But Sci-Fi was getting, this is before any of the episodes that we shot for season 6 even aired, and they were getting so much hate mail. They were getting so much, we need Daniel Jackson. We need the original cast. This is garbage. No one's ever going to be able to replace him. I mean, I'm talking voluminous amounts of mail was coming in. That absolutely freaked them out. They were, the executives at Sci-Fi Channel, they were, to put it bluntly, crapping their pants. Because they were spending more money, per episode on that show. They had so much at stake. It was over $2 million per episode that they were spending, and it was frightening for them, to think that, just because of this cast change, this show may flop when it airs, and we're going to be stuck with, holding the bag here. But so season 6 was originally supposed to be the final season for it, and they were going to do the spinoff show Stargate Atlantis. But behind the scenes, Sci-Fi Channel was renegotiating with Michael Shanks to bring him back on board, because they were worried that they might lose their ass on season 6, and they needed to do more seasons of Stargate, to make up for what might have been a devastating loss for them. But so before the show, my episodes even aired, they were already working a deal to bring him back into the show.
Oh my God.
And then obviously then the show started airing, and people were like, oh, I like him. Yeah. And then the season did very well for Sci-Fi Channel. It did really, really great. But by the time, all the episodes that aired, they'd already renegotiated with Michael Shanks to bring him back as the series regular that he was before. And my character got written out, and then they kicked the can down the road on Stargate Atlantis by a year or so. And Jonas Quinn was originally supposed to roll into Stargate Atlantis, but then by the time they circled back to do Stargate Atlantis, they were like, we're gonna do a whole new cast. So it was great for me in many ways, but it also could have been even bigger for me, had the character not been used and abused the way
they wouldn't have panicked and tried to go back to the original cast. They shouldn't have panicked. They should have let it go. You did great. That sucks.
But it was awesome though, because I had no idea about the Stargate universe, the amount of fans. I didn't know anything about sci-fi conventions all over the world and all of these things. I had never done anything like that in my life.
Really?
And so next thing I know, I'm being flown all over the world doing these Stargate conventions. I'm going to you know, I mean, I was down in Australia over the years. I went to Australia like probably 26 times to different conventions in different towns there. Went all over the UK and all over Europe, and you know, to just all these different sci-fi conventions and collector conventions and all this stuff. I'm going to France again coming up soon. You know,
that's so cool.
You know, it's that just because of, I mean, I have notoriety in France for a bunch of other projects too, but Stargate is still, it's such a, you know, fans just love it, and my character, fortunately for me, was very well received, especially internationally, and it's kept me you know, busy doing that as well in between gigs. I enjoy the travel, especially international, and I get to take my lovely wife with me now because I'm relatively newly remarried.
I was going to say you got married not too long ago, not too terribly long ago.
Yes,
awesome.
And she's lovely. She's my favorite travel buddy.
Well, congratulations. That's great. I has hope that maybe I can find somebody in my, you know, when I get my 50s, you know, it's like you think all that stuff's in the past, but not always. It's good that you found a good person. I like that.
Yes, we both found each other right at the right time.
Perfect. I love it.
We get along very well. It's a lovely relationship.
Oh, that's great. And as for Stargate, you got to work with MacGyver, right?
Yeah, man. The cast, you know, over my career, I wish I had written down a list, because over my career, I've gotten to work with some absolutely incredible actors, and it's been what a wonderful journey. And you know, and Stargate did open up a lot of doors for me. It got me starring in so many really mediocrely written B movies on Sci-Fi Channel. It just was, you know, incredible. I got to fight all kinds of creatures from all types of different character roles. I love doing that too. I ended up producing a number of them as well, which was a lot of fun. Sand Sharks was one of them that you know, that was pretty fun. That's why it turned out as funny and as well as it did, because I was one of the producers on that too, and we were able to strong arm the script and keep it a comedy, because they originally didn't want it to be a comedy. It was written to be a comedy, and they're like, no, we don't want a comedy. You have to rewrite it. And we're like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, right. Comedy.
So
bring back comedy.
It's gone great. It went over great. And then another one called Dragon Wasps, I was a producer on as well, and we really got to rework the script there and make it a lot of fun. And that one's always played well over the years too. And I enjoy, you know, I don't look at it like, oh hell, this is some B movie, some bad sci-fi thing, whatever. It's like, it's an opportunity for me, just like I learned from Manu Tupou. It's an opportunity for me to practice my craft, to do what I love to do, and to bring a character to life. And that's how I look at every job, as you know, as that same opportunity. And I developed some great relationships with producers and some directors over all those years, and you know, ended up with some of the production houses that I was doing those sci-fi movies with. They ended up rolling into doing all the, you know, the Lifetime channel thrillers, you know, and all that. So I got into doing those, and I wrote a number of them and produced some, and starred in a bunch of them, and you know, that was great. Actually, you know, coming out more recently, just to wrap it up, there's a few. There's one that I wrote, produced, and starred in as well, called Deadly Justice, that you can see on Tubi now. And
Tubi, okay.
It's on some other platforms too. That's just the first one that rings a bell. And then one of the more recent movies that I had come out, that's just a great film, that was directed by Audrey Cummings. She's out of Toronto. David Lipper produced it, starring opposite Heather Graham and Tom Hopper from Umbrella Academy. If anybody's familiar with Umbrella Academy, Tom Hopper is one of the main characters in that too. But it's a wonderful Western. It's a thriller, it's kind of like what's that great movie about the writer who's held captive in the house by the crazy lady? Misery, yeah. It's like Misery meets Hateful Eight.
Oh,
you know?
that sounds fun.
Actually, the cinematographer who did a lot of Quentin Tarantino's films also shot this. It's a great Western, highly recommended, called Place of Bones. So check out Place of Bones.
Okay.
There's one Western that I wrote. I'm not really in it, but I wrote it not that long ago. They came out early last year as well, called Dead Man's Hand, with Stephen Dorff and Cole Hauser and Jack Kilmer.
Oh, nice.
It was a lot of fun writing that. It was a great time. And then I have a bunch of films coming out. One called Myra that I just shot down in Tijuana recently. That'll be coming out later this year. Then there is what is the one that I just did with Harvey Keitel and Ron Perlman and Deacon Lockman? Joe Baby. Yeah, Joe Baby will be coming out at some point this year, and then there's like four. I just had another film come out recently that was a wonderful, very sad film, but a wonderful indie film that my brain is just fried now.
You're a busy guy. You have so much going on.
Yeah. I mean, I keep myself busy.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that I can't remember the name of this movie. It's a fantastic one. You have to go to my IMDb.
Okay.
But some great movies that have come out recently, and some great ones that should be coming out down the road. And I have some projects that I'm writing and producing currently that we should be up in production with this year, including kind of a Lifetime style thriller that's
nice.
that we'll be shooting in end of next month. And then the same company that Robert Fraser, who I've done a couple of films with, the one Myra I did down in Tijuana with him, that's coming out later this year. I did one that came out roughly a year or so ago called Day Labor, which is a wonderful thriller. And we shot that together. And I have a script with him that I wrote that we're casting right now that we'll be shooting sometime this year as well. And
You're
I'm
so
keeping
busy.
busy.
Wow.
Keeping it going, hustling.
I have one thing I wanted to ask you as a writer, producer, and actor. What are your thoughts of AI coming into the industry and the use of AI? Are you a fan? Do you hate it? Do you think it has,
I don't know yet. I have I have one script that I wrote that is an animated film that is very interesting. It's all about kind of the monetary system, oddly enough. Even though it's a kids movie, it's
I'm
very
that kind of stuff.
It's a deep film. It's based on a book called Money Talks.
Oh.
That was written by Pastor Ron Johnson. His book is very non sequitur. It's a bunch of kind of small short stories that I had to thread a through line through and create a whole story out of it. But it's a very interesting film, and I had a conversation with a producing partner of mine about how we might be able to have AI animate the whole thing and see what that what that looks like. But I'm working with a company that does the characters, the Turds. If anybody wants to go look up the Turds, they're great. I've been working with that company in the development of Money Talks to go and pitch it and see if we can raise the necessary funds to produce it, because it's highly educational.
Mm-hmm.
It really, oddly enough, it sort of it pulls the curtain back on the monetary system in a very unique way.
This sounds amazing. This is right up my alley.
Yeah, that people wouldn't really get, you know what I mean? Like the fiat currency and the value of collectible coins and gold and silver and all of these things, but in a very unique way.
Two of my favorite books are End the Fed by Ron Paul and Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah, I've read them both.
Oh, great. So this is right up my alley of stuff that, oh man, I would love that. I hope we get to see that. That would be amazing. That's so cool. Well, anything else you want to tell us? You've already given us an hour.
You can catch up with me on on social media and whatnot, Facebook, Instagram, X, wherever. I don't post as much on YouTube, but I have some really cool videos and stuff there that I've done over the years that you're welcome to check out. A wonderful TV pilot that I created with Jason London, fellow actor and friend of mine, called Blackwater Blues, and that independently produced pilot is up there. It's really good. We're still actually shopping that. It's just it's tough. It's tough out there. But it's a,
Was
it's a
he the
great
one-
pilot, it's a great show, and it
Was
deserves
he-
to be a series.
Yeah. Was he the one in Dazed and Confused or in Mallrats?
Yeah,
I always get him-
exactly.
Okay, I
Yeah,
get
his brother was in
confused.
Mallrats.
Okay,
Yeah,
his
I
brother
was
was
just
in
hanging
Mallrats.
out with Jeremy today, actually, and we were
Oh my
doing
god.
some.
Those are two of my favorite movies of all time, Dazed and Confused and Mallrats.
Yeah, totally.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much again. I really, really appreciate your time. This was an absolute blast.
You
and I
betcha.
really appreciate it. So thank you so much. I guess I'll see you
Absolutely.
later.
Hasta
I'll
la
see you all
vista,
next.
baby.
Okay, bye.